My brother threw me out at 14, leaving me homeless and afraid, betrayed by the family who was supposed to love and protect me. My brother had me thrown out of the house so he could turn my bedroom into his gaming cave. And now, years later, after discovering I bought my own home, my parents suddenly think I should hand it over to him. When I was younger, I lived with my mom, my stepdad, and my younger half-brother. My brother was always treasured while I was treated like an eyesore. My mom resented me because I reminded her of my biological father, the man she cheated on, and somehow she decided I was responsible for her guilt. I grew up being ignored, pushed aside, and treated like I didn't belong. I tried to survive the neglect, but things collapsed when I turned 14. My brother was spoiled rotten and never heard the word no. He was obsessed with video games, and one day decided he needed his own gaming room, something he saw online. But the house wasn't big enough. That's when my parents began making comments, at first playful, then not, hinting that I should leave so he could take over my room. I thought it was just more of their cruel teasing, but soon I realized they were dead serious. They insisted I was practically grown, that it was time for me to be independent, even though I wasn't legally old enough to work and had nowhere to go. Eventually, they decided they were done with me. One afternoon, I came home from school and found all my belongings thrown onto the sidewalk like trash. The months that followed were some of the hardest in my life. I bounced between shelters, trying to survive. Then an angel crossed my path, a police officer who lived near one of the shelters I stayed at. We got to know each other slowly, and a few months later, she took me in. Eventually, she adopted me. If she hadn't stepped into my life, I genuinely don't know where I would have ended up. Years passed, and I worked myself to the bone. I studied, saved, and eventually built my own business. With time, I bought my own house. And when things stabilized, I bought a second house for my adoptive mother so she could stop renting. Everything changed again when my biological family heard about it. The man who sold me the property happened to know them, and that's how the news spread. Not long after, I received a blunt message from my stepfather, as if he hadn't once thrown me out like I was nothing. "We heard you have a new house. It's about time you give back to the family that raised you." My stomach churned. The family that raised me. The same people who shoved my clothes onto the curb so the golden child could have a gaming lounge. The same people who never comforted me, never fed me with care, never asked if I was okay. The same ones who kicked me out without caring whether I lived or died. The next day, my mother called. I hadn't heard her voice since she yelled at me to stop, ruining the appearance of the house, while I picked up my own things off the sidewalk. She didn't ask how I was. She didn't ask anything a normal mother would. She launched straight into her real reason for calling. "Your brother is getting married. He needs somewhere to live. You don't need two houses." I felt my hands tremble with anger, but I kept my voice steady. "You want me to hand over the home I spent years fighting to build just because he's getting married?" Without missing a beat, she replied, "He's your brother. Family supports each other." Family supports each other. Right. I slept on benches and went hungry. Family supports each other. Where were they when I needed shoes for school? Where were they when I got attacked at a shelter and no one visited me in the hospital? I hung up. But it didn't end there. Soon I began receiving messages from unknown numbers, threats, insults, claims that I owed them. My adoptive mother even received a message warning her to stay out of our family business. That one hit hard. I filed a police report immediately. I had connections now. I wasn't the helpless kid they abandoned. I had evidence. I had resources. But things escalated further. A former classmate who lived near them told me my biological mother was spreading rumors that the house I bought was actually inheritance from my father and that I betrayed my bloodline for money. That was my breaking point. If they wanted a fight, I was ready. I drove to their neighborhood the next morning, not out of nostalgia, but to show them exactly who I had become. I parked my new car in front of the same dull house, now even more rundown. My brother answered the door, early 20s, unkempt, with a beer belly and the same entitled expression. He smirked. "Here to hand over the keys?" I laughed directly in his face. "No. I'm here to tell you that if any of you contact me again, I'll sue every one of you for harassment, defamation, and attempted extortion. And I have proof." I pulled out my phone showing recordings, screenshots, every piece of evidence. His face drained of color. "You're overreacting. It's just a house." "It's not just a house. It's my life. Something I earned from nothing." My mother appeared behind him. She still had that look, the one that said I was a mistake she wished she could erase. But when she saw how serious I was, something in her posture changed. "You turn your back on your own mother," she demanded. I don't have a mother, I replied calmly. The woman who raised me is safe and happy in the home I bought her. You just gave birth to me. For the first time ever, she had no response. I left without looking back, feeling a strange sense of relief. I thought that would be the end, but of course it wasn't. A few days later, a social worker called. They had received an anonymous report accusing me of abusing my adoptive mother, keeping her locked inside, controlling her finances, mistreating her. I knew instantly who was behind it. I invited them over. They inspected everything, questioned my mother, and she was furious when she heard the accusation. She hugged me and said, "They won't break you again, not this time." Once the officials confirmed the complaint was false, I demanded an official statement clearing our names. But I wasn't finished. I called my lawyer. If they wanted to play dirty, I was done being polite. Not long after, another storm hit. My biological parents spread lies around the city, claiming my adoptive mother hypnotized me, that she used her position to trick me, that I used her money to buy houses. As if I hadn't spent years working deliveries, waiting tables, studying nonstop, and building a business from scratch. I chose not to fight their gossip directly. Instead, I contacted a journalist I knew from college. I told him my entire story, without names, just the truth. The article was published with the title, "The Boy They Threw Away and the Empire He Built Through Love and Perseverance." People recognized me anyway. Messages poured in, classmates, strangers, supporters. Many said they knew how badly I'd been treated. Others praised my adoptive mother for saving my life. My biological parents saw it and they couldn't handle it. My mother called again, not out of remorse but rage. "How could you humiliate us publicly?" "I didn't expose anyone," I said. "The truth did." I hung up. That night, for the first time in years, I slept peacefully. But they still weren't done. Soon, I received a court summons. They had filed a lawsuit against me claiming I had illegally taken family inheritance to buy the house. The father who left no inheritance at all, the same man my mother despised, was suddenly being used as the basis of their claim. They even manipulated conversations and brought in a neighbor as a witness. The accusation was ridiculous, but my lawyer warned me the case could still cause trouble, delay transactions, affect my business, damage my reputation. That's when I understood this wasn't about a house anymore. It was about ruining me. While gathering documents to defend myself, something unexpected happened. My brother's fiancée sent me a long message. She said she'd believed his family because no one lies about something so cruel. But after reading the article and seeing leaked screenshots, she began realizing who they really were. She said my brother had become aggressive, controlling, unpredictable, and she told me something I didn't expect. "I'm rethinking the wedding. Your story opened my eyes. I think you may have saved my life." I wished her strength and made sure she knew none of this was her fault. That's when I realized something important. The best revenge wasn't destroying them. It was living so well that their hatred meant nothing. But the war wasn't over yet, and their final move would be the lowest and cruelest of all. The court date was approaching fast. My lawyer was unfazed, calm, prepared, confident. We had every document, every receipt, every statement lined up. The judge had already ordered a financial audit on all properties and accounts tied to the case. Everything pointed to one outcome. They were about to be exposed, officially and irreversibly. That's when they decided to pull one last disgusting move. The night before the hearing, my adoptive mother was hit by a car right in front of her house. A hit and run, in broad daylight. And the man behind the wheel, someone who used to hang around with my biological family at parties back when I still lived with them. He told the authorities she stepped in front of his car suddenly. But witnesses said the opposite, that he saw her crossing, sped up, and only hit the brakes once she was already on the ground. She fractured her leg, had bruises everywhere, but thank God her life wasn't at risk. Still, emotionally, it shattered her. She cried and said it was her fault, that she was the target because they couldn't reach me anymore. Hearing that ripped me apart. I sat beside her hospital bed for hours, watching the woman who had pulled me out of the darkest corners of my life now lying injured because of the monsters who once discarded me. I swear something inside me snapped. I promised myself right there that this would end. For good. The next morning I walked into court with the calmest face I could manage, even though my chest felt like a furnace. My biological parents were already there, my brother too. All of them wearing formal clothes, pretending to be innocent, pretending to be hurt by the ingratitude of the child they had thrown away. Their usual performance. But this time, their act wouldn't save them. My lawyer began presenting paperwork, financial statements, transfer records, testimonies. The judge's expression changed slowly with every piece of evidence, from neutral to visibly disturbed. Then I was called to speak, and I did. For half an hour straight, I laid out everything: the childhood rejection, the day they dumped my belongings on the sidewalk, the shelters, the nights outside freezing, the trauma, the years clawing my way back to life, and the woman they were now trying to destroy, the woman who saved me. When I finished, the silence in the courtroom felt like a vacuum. My biological parents looked ghost-white. My brother stared at the floor. The judge asked for quiet and delivered a sentence that I will never forget. This court does not exist to validate emotional manipulation, nor to reward parents who abandon their children. Case dismissed with prejudice. And based on the evidence presented, I am forwarding this to the prosecutor's office for further investigation into false allegations, falsified testimony, and attempted fraud. I had won. But more importantly, they had lost everything they tried to weaponize. But I wasn't done. I filed my own lawsuit for emotional damages. I requested a restraining order to protect my adoptive mother. I pressed charges against the man who ran her over. And I started a legal process to freeze my brother's assets after discovering he had been using his fiancée's business license. She had already walked away from the wedding to filter money from illegal online betting rings. Yes, I pushed every button. They deserved it. When I came home that night, my adoptive mother gave me a tired but sincere smile. She hugged me tightly and whispered, "You're free now." And for the first time, I truly felt it. Still, something inside me remained unsettled. As if my younger self, the child left on the sidewalk, had one last thing that needed closure. So I decided to confront them one final time, not for reconciliation. There would never be any. But for closure. I messaged the old family group, the same one where they once kicked me out, and wrote, "You have 15 minutes of my time, tomorrow at noon. If you have the courage to hear what you never wanted to face, show up." The next day, in the event hall of the home I'd proudly bought for my adoptive mother, I placed 2 chairs and a recording device on the table. One for me, one for whoever dared to come. To my surprise, they came. My mother, my stepfather, my brother, looking hollow, recently dumped, practically broke, and according to rumors, on the edge of eviction. They sat down pretending to be martyrs. I didn't let them speak. I pressed record, held the microphone, and said, "This conversation is for me, so I never forget who I was, who you tried to erase, and who I became without you." My mother tried to interrupt, saying she was sick, that everyone makes mistakes. I raised my hand to shut her down. Forgetting a birthday is a mistake. Losing your temper is a mistake. What you did was deliberate cruelty. You abandoned a child. You didn't make a mistake, you made a choice. My stepfather grumbled that I was ungrateful, that he had problems too. I leaned forward. I slept on concrete floors, I bounced between shelters. I grew up swallowing pain while you pampered a boy who never worked a day in his life. You didn't raise a son, you created a leech who tried to extort the only person who managed to build a life from nothing. My brother didn't say a word. Maybe for the first time he realized he was no longer protected by lies. I looked at each of them and said, "I don't hate you. Hate requires emotional value. You have none. I'm grateful you threw me away, because without that I would never have found my real mother. I would never have learned what family truly means. Family is not blood. Family is who stands beside you when everyone else turns away." I stood up, stopped the recording, and ended it with, "Now I'm free." None of them replied. They couldn't. I walked away without looking back. Months later, I heard my biological mother applied for government assistance. The damages lawsuit continued. Their lives fell apart. And I felt no satisfaction from it, only peace. Because now I knew exactly who I was. I had built everything with honesty and resilience. My company expanded. I began giving talks on overcoming adversity. My adoptive mother, my only mother, now lives with me, healthy and cherished, surrounded by people who treat her like royalty. And every time I face the mirror, I see not just the face of someone who survived, but someone who rebuilt himself from ashes without becoming the monster they tried to create. Thank you for being part of our community. Your likes, comments, and shares help us bring more unbelievable Reddit family stories every day. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss a shocking story.